This time, we ask that all members of the class of 2026, their families, and guests take their seat as our program. Good morning, everybody. Please take your seats at this time. The program will begin in just a moment.
The music stopped. Please sit down. Good morning. My name is Rafael Rive. I'm MIT's president, and I'm delighted to welcome you all, parents and students of the class of 2026, delighted to welcome you to MIT. As you may have heard, this is my last year as president, and this event is one of the gatherings that I will miss the most. In a few moments, I'll introduce you to the officers and faculty on stage with me. And then we'll hear from 3 faculty members, each of whom also happens to be an MIT graduate. But first, I want to share a few thoughts about the community that you're joining. I will start by describing the early days of my MIT experience. Not because my story is unusual, but because it is so common. I arrived at MIT in 1980. I was a young assistant professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, also known as Course. That's the best part of my speech. Also known as Course 6. We're getting better. I was excited when I got to campus, but I was also anxious. I knew almost no one. I was very far from home. I wasn't sure I had what it would take to succeed, and I was painfully aware of my accent. For the record, although we are very close to Boston, mine is not a Boston accent. I grew up 2,000 miles south of here in Caracas, Venezuela, where on a really cold day, the temperature drops to 63 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes, I was particularly worried about winters and about snow. Now, if any of my concerns sound familiar, I want you to know that all of them, all of those anxious moments, I spent wondering if I had made the right decision. All of them disappeared very quickly. At MIT, I discovered a community of students, faculty, researchers, and staff who were a lot like me. They loved to ask questions. They were intense and passionate. They loved to tinker. Many of them came from somewhere else. And they cared about helping each other and helping society. That was the MIT I found when I arrived, and I'm proud to say that this is still the MIT I know today. Here on campus, I found my home. So no matter where you come from, I'm here to welcome you to your new home. And we're thrilled to start an exciting new year with all of you. One of the MIT traits I appreciated from the very start was MIT's motto, Mens et Manus, which is Latin for mind and hand. Learning and doing, and learning by doing, are deeply ingrained in our culture. Being a student at MIT can be difficult. Your classes will require equal parts hard work, discipline, and dedication. You will enjoy great moments of success, but you may experience moments of doubt too. Maybe when a problem set doesn't turn out the way you had hoped. When those moments arrive, please remember 3 things. First, you belong here. Our Dean of Admissions, Stu Schmiel, MIT class of 1986, has a remarkable knack for finding the right students for each year's incoming class. You're here because you belong here. Do not forget that. In Stu, we trust. Second, all of us experience doubts about ourselves. Even the distinguished professors with me on stage. Very often, those doubts come up when you are trying something new, or pushing yourself, or watching others who have more experience. You will do a great deal of all of those things at MIT. So please remember, if you have doubts about yourself, it's just a sign that you are learning. And finally, you're surrounded by a community that cares about you. All of us are dedicated to your success, and we believe in you. If you need help, please ask. Everybody, and I mean everybody, needs help sometimes. MIT draws great strength from its deep commitment to mind and hand. But what sets us apart is our heart. MIT is a place where we work as hard as we can to seek knowledge and invent solutions to help make a better world. And it is also a place where we strive always to treat one another with respect, humility, and kindness. I expect that you arrived here with high hopes for what you will learn and what you will accomplish. However, along with your suitcases, boxes, duffel bags, and satchels, you also brought a gift to our community. You brought to us the incredible gift of your talent, energy, curiosity, creativity, and drive. And you cannot imagine how grateful we are for that. So it's my pleasure and privilege to once again welcome you to MIT. Now, I will briefly introduce 3 members of MIT's senior leadership who focus every day on helping our students grow and thrive. They are eager to support your success at MIT and beyond. First is Provost Cynthia Barnhart. Since I used to be provost myself, I can tell you that it is an extremely important job. The provost runs the academic side of MIT, the schools and departments, the faculty, and the degree programs. Provost Barnhart also played a huge role in expanding MIT's idea of mind and hand to include a wonderful new emphasis on heart. She has 2 degrees from MIT, and her research interests include transportation logistics and aviation planning. Her systems engineering background makes her perfect for the job of keeping the great, complex machine of MIT running smoothly. Next, Chancellor Melissa Nobles. Chancellor Melissa Nobles oversees everything to do with undergraduate and graduate students, education, student life, and student services. Chancellor Nobles is a political scientist who specializes in retrospective justice. She has been a member of our faculty for 27 years, and for 6 years she served brilliantly as dean of one of MIT's secret weapons, the truly outstanding School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. I expect many of you will have the opportunity to meet and work closely with Chancellor Nobles, and I know you will find her a thoughtful and open-minded partner in the great shared project of making a better MIT. And finally, Vice Chancellor and Dean for Student Life, Susie Nelson. Dean Nelson has more than 25 years of experience as an educator and oversees housing, dining, and MIT's core student support services, as well as programs that make community life here more engaging and more fun. Under Dean Nelson, the Division of Student Life has a simple, powerful mission. We are here for students. Susie has made student well-being and student space improvements top priorities, helping to create a welcoming campus environment where students can learn academically and grow personally. Most importantly, she wants you to know her door is always open if you have ideas for how we can do better. So now, on behalf of the entire faculty and administration, thank you for believing that MIT is the right choice for your family. We will continue to work hard to earn your trust. Next, we'll hear from 3 faculty who will try, at MIT speed, to give you a sense of what's like to live and work here. I'll introduce all 3 first, and then ask that each come directly to the podium in sequence. First is Deb Roy, Professor in Media Arts and Sciences. Where's Deb? Professor Roy has a PhD in Artificial Intelligence and Cognitive Science from MIT. He directs the MIT Center for Constructive Communication, which, among other things, designs new platforms to help people connect across societal divides. They've also co-founded Bluefin Labs, a company that analyzes interactions between television and social media. Bluefin was acquired by Twitter in 2013, its largest acquisition at the time, and they've spent 4 years as Twitter's chief media scientist. So he knows quite a lot about how we tell each other stories and how data can help. Next, we'll hear from Laura Kisling, the Novartis Professor of Chemistry. Now, Laura got her undergraduate degree in chemistry at MIT, but then she did the unthinkable. She left the institute to get a PhD at Yale. We do let people leave MIT, but we always hope they will come back. Professor Kisling's work has had a profound influence on the field of chemical biology. She spent 26 years at the University of Wisconsin at Madison studying the biological roles of carbohydrates, specifically the carbohydrates found on cell surfaces. About 5 years ago, Professor Kisling returned to MIT. In her lab, researchers are using the chemistry of carbs to explore the development of new disease treatments and vaccines. Finally, we'll hear from Professor Brian Bryson. Professor Bryson has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a PhD in biological engineering, both from MIT. His research crosses many disciplines, from computational modeling to systems biology. In Professor Bryson's lab, researchers experiment with manipulating the immune system with the goal of finding new ways to fight tuberculosis, a disease that affects nearly a third of the global population. Before I conclude, I must say one more thing about Brian that is extremely important to me anyway. As an MIT student, he may pretend to forget that, he was a member of the search committee that selected me as MIT's 17th president. So it could be said that without him, I might not even be standing here. So a special thank you to Professor Bryson, and a tremendous thanks to all our faculty speakers. And now please join me in welcoming Professor Deb Roy.
Good morning. Former MIT president and Media Lab co-founder Jerry Wiesner once said, getting an education at MIT is like taking a drink from a fire hose. And if you actually walk through Stata Center here on campus, you'll see his words memorialized next to a water fountain and naturally a fire hose. And I think it's actually the case that sometimes MIT can feel a little overwhelming. And so I thought today I would share 3 pieces of advice for all of you that are joining us and joining the MIT faculty, MIT family this year. First, think about the passion that brought you here and how you can build on it. Each of you has a unique story that brought you to MIT, and now that MIT will be your next chapter, think about how you can explore the huge range of opportunities that connect with your core interests. When I think back, I was always enchanted by the magical world of electricity and electronics and eventually computers. I remember when I was 8 or 9 years old, after several days of frustrating failed experiments at the kitchen table, getting my homebrew electromagnetic buzzer to finally jolt to life, causing my mom to jump with alarm, literally, and then join me in the joy of seeing it work. And years later, when I joined MIT, I came as a graduate student to join the Media Lab, and there I found home for my inner child. I discovered a laboratory full of people, many of whom shared my interest in building communication systems, and more generally, across MIT, a place full of brilliant, playful people who shared my sense of wonder of how the world works, and also a desire to imagine how the world could be improved to make it a better place. So as you settle in, I hope you will explore the topics and areas that speak to you, reflect on what really moves you, and stay true to what you value as you start to sip from the fire hose. Second piece of advice is to make connections with the amazing people of MIT, starting with your incoming classmates, many of whom are here today, other students, and research staff and faculty. If your experience is anything like mine, those interactions with other people will be the most profound and impactful experiences at your time here. As a graduate student, I started building robots that learned how to talk. I was doing this at the Media Lab, which happens to be home to 2 of the founders of the field of artificial intelligence, Marvin Minsky and Seymour Papert. Minsky was an AI legend. He could be seen roaming around campus in his worn-down camping vest, chock full of instruments and tools ready to examine and fix any machine he came across. And I had an opportunity to take classes with Minsky and eventually to become his junior colleague when I joined the faculty at the Media Lab. And Marvin challenged me deeply and really pushed me on my ideas and my work. And as someone with such deep knowledge of AI, sometimes his criticism was searing. And I remember at one point when my confidence was truly shaken, his close colleague, Seymour Papert, stepped forward to mentor me and to help me sharpen my ideas. And that experience was challenging, it was difficult, and yet I came out of it with a new level of confidence in my own ideas that shaped my research path. And so I hope you too will discover both the challenges and the mentorship and eventually the way to build on your own ideas as you connect with people at MIT. One tip beyond classes is to make sure you learn about the UROP program, which is a way for you to connect with the research across campus. UROP stands for Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program. It's a way for you to join an active research team, work on a project, and sometimes even publish. It's an amazing way to broaden your horizons that I hope you will take advantage of. My third piece of advice is to connect your passion with your noble purpose. Although I have no doubt in your time at MIT you will deepen your know-how, my hope is that you will make space to reflect on why you're doing what you're doing. My research at MIT has long been focused on communication technologies. In fact, some of my research contributed to global social media platforms in use today. And over the years, I started to worry about the harms of social media. Our lab studied the spread of false news. We looked at how people are becoming siloed and disconnected from people with different political preferences. And I became alarmed at the toxic polarization and divisiveness that we could see in our own data, in our own research. And this led me to become convinced that we need to fundamentally rethink how we communicate and the role that technology plays in rethinking social media for the sake of our democracy. And so today, my students, my colleagues, and I are focused on designing communication systems that are designed for listening and for bridging divides. That is the noble purpose that guides my work. And so I ask you, what is your noble purpose? And I ask because although I know you are just arriving and settling in, I can't help but express how important each one of you will be to our future. Our world is being challenged in fundamental ways. Our climate, our democracies, economic injustices, our understanding of others, all urgently need attention, energy, and fresh thinking. And when I imagine each of you standing up to these challenges, I'm filled with optimism. So remember, stay true to your inner child and the passions that brought you here. Make connections with the people that share your passions, and connect your passions to your noble purpose. Thank you, and welcome to MIT.
One of the coolest things about being here is listening to my amazing colleagues and getting a view of even how I should be thinking about things. So thanks for that. I remember my first MIT orientation week. I felt nervous and maybe a little scared. And I'm now going to thank President Reif for bringing back those feelings. Fortunately, I remember virtually nothing that was said, and so I think the bar is quite low here. Back in the day, I was really worried about how I would do, whether I was prepared, whether MIT would be too competitive, whether they had made the right choice in choosing me, whether I could fit in. So yes, I had a solid case of imposter syndrome. And that made my experience really stressful. And so, at least initially. And so what I want to do is tell you some things about MIT that I wish I had known then. First, if you think you don't belong here, you're not alone and you're wrong. Many of us experience imposter syndrome, and it takes different forms. So some people will express their nervousness, and other people will just sign up for 1 million of the most advanced classes that they can. And neither of these are the best way to proceed. I can tell you, whatever your symptoms, you belong here, and this is the most exciting place to be. MIT has contributed already so much. The World Wide Web, the Human Genome Project, the lipid nanoparticles that help deliver those mRNA vaccines we've all had. So it's an amazing place. And how can you take advantage of this incredible playground? So it is a playground. So I have 3 recommendations too. First, immerse yourself in different areas, but don't take so many classes or try to achieve in a classical way so much that you don't leave time for that creativity. It's really at MIT that I learned to identify where the boundaries of a field were and how to ask an interesting question or devise a solution to a problem that I first recognized. You cannot do that if all you are doing is doing P-sets and taking exams. So, getting the right answer on a test is not the same as having a flash of insight, and you need to give yourself a little time. And Europe, research is one way where you can do that. And as you already heard, we need your insight and creativity to solve some of the problems that face us, including climate change or new solutions to make the world a more equitable place. Recommendation 2, go ahead and let yourself fail. Great recommendation for the first week of school, but you're not gonna fail in the long run. You might just fail temporarily, and that's how we grow. And you already heard, feeling uncomfortable is a way that you can learn resilience and also creativity. Here's my MIT version. Do you know that bad dream where you missed a test and you didn't realize you missed it? You wake up and all of a sudden, you forgot to go to your exam, or you forgot you had an exam and you panic. I lived that at MIT. I was taking an advanced chem class, and we had a crew meet on Friday, so I missed class on Friday, and that's the day the professor announced the exam. This professor was a stickler for time. He was Swiss, and on Monday, I woke up a little late. And so I thought, I'm not going to go in late because he'll really hassle me. So I skipped that class too. And then I went to my next class, and I said to my friend, hey, I can't believe I missed two of Professor X's classes. And he said, I can't believe you didn't go to the exam today. And I was like, shut up. And he was like, no, really, there was an exam. So I rushed over, begged the TA to give me the exam, and he said, how do I know you didn't cheat? And I said, you will know. And I failed it. I remember walking to class, and prof handed me my paper, and it had written on it F. I was gonna drop the class, everyone told me to, but I love this class. And I stayed in it. It all worked out fine. In fact, it worked out great. But what was cool about it is some of the things I learned in that class fuel my research today. I learned about how some antibiotics work and how bacteria evade them. And now my lab is trying to figure out new ways, new kinds of antibiotics, and new ways to use our natural immunity to combat that. So those moments are really important. And what I learned is, not to worry about grades, but rather learning. And let me just say this to you, you'll hear this, but believe it. grades are not a reflection of who you are. They do not put a ceiling on what you can do, right? What you can do is inside you. Okay, so recommendation 3, and you've already heard this, but I'm going to reiterate it. Leave time to bond with MIT people. What makes this place so amazing is the people. You will find that the people at MIT are some of the smartest and most motivated, but they are also the kindest. They will be there with you when you have that piece set that you don't think you can finish, or that project that you don't think you can finish, or you can't study for your exam. They will be there propping you up, keeping you caffeinated, doing whatever you need to live through that experience. And not only will they help you succeed at MIT, those relationships will last a long time, and I'm going to give you my 2 examples. Megan Smith was a good friend of mine. She was a rowing partner, and she joined Google early on, made some major changes there, and then became Obama's chief technical officer. Katie Coleman, my lab partner, became an astronaut. She has been on 2 shuttle missions. She spent 159 days in space. Those people did not worry about the details of their grades. They really took MIT for the full experience. And what they learned was a love of learning and an audaciousness to pursue their goals. So let me just give my own welcome to MIT. I look forward to meeting many of you, and a little shout out to those I've already met, which is Ugo and the FPOP chemistry team, which told me to say this. And let me end by saying that your professors are people that want to share our love of science, engineering, social sciences, humanities with you. So don't leave us out of your equation. Take advantage of our enthusiasm to fuel yours.
Good morning. So I often tell people that the most terrifying presentations for me to give are actually my classroom lectures. And so here I am, and I'm actually in front of one of my largest audiences of students yet, so I'm just mildly terrified. So part of that fear is the task at hand, delivering remarks to the class of 2026. What on earth can I tell you that is wise wisdom that I think transcends disciplinary boundaries? The rest of that fear comes from my usual pre-teaching jitters, because when I show up to class, my goals are the same. One of my objectives is to share knowledge, but the second objective is to empower you. So the gravity of the task in delivering today's remarks for me has been quite daunting. So while this tent certainly doesn't look like a classroom, what I'd like for you for the next 4 years to envision is this entire campus as your classroom. Because I guarantee you that there is almost certainly something for you to learn everywhere you turn at MIT. And so in the spirit of that advice, we're going to get in a time machine and go back to 19 years ago when I was an undergraduate here, and I'm going to share with you 2 of my favorite memories from navigating the hallways at MIT. And I hope what these stories will do will illustrate what I believe the magic of MIT to be. All right, so story number 1 is sophomore year. I was walking down a hallway at MIT, lost, and came across a research poster that caught my attention, so I paused to read it. At that point in my MIT experience, I wasn't entirely sure of my path. I declared a major, but I wasn't certainly sold on it. So from behind my head, I heard somebody say, "Are you waiting to meet with somebody?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm just like, see this poster, it looks kind of interesting, so I'm just reading it." And so the person then asked, "Do you want to come in and learn more?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And I followed this person into their office. Then it finally clicked in my head that I was talking to the professor who ran the research lab. And I was panicked. I was like, okay, I'm sitting in their office. What on earth intelligent question can I come up with? So I surveilled the office, and it was full of plants. All right, so maybe I could ask a question about plants. But before I could come up with a question about plants, the clock on her wall started to go off. And not only did the clock on her wall start to go off, the clock on her wall makes the sound of a revving motorcycle. So it totally threw me off guard. But before I could get in my question about plants, she said, "Oh, you know, I really like motorcycles. I won one in a bet once." And so our conversation actually ended up talking about hobbies. And then both where we were both from the South, and then transitioned to talking about goals that I had for my MIT experience. Gaining practical research experience was one of them, and she told me, "You know, I'm happy to introduce you to people in my lab if you're looking for a UROP." So I took her up on that invitation, and I actually ended up working in her lab for 3 years. And that ended up being a super formative experience for me as a scientist. And I always look back on that moment in that hallway as what one of my friends from undergrad that I actually met during orientation week, Jackie, calls serendipitous fulcrums in our MIT experience. Okay, so story number 2 takes place outside of 10250. You'll come to know where 10250 is. It's a large classroom which happens to be above one of my favorite hallways, the Infinite Corridor. I was walking away from class and turned the corner and I bumped into someone. I looked up and I knew who he was, but he certainly did not know who I was. That person was Richard Schrock, and a few weeks prior, he'd won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So, as you might imagine, I audibly yelped because I felt like I met a celebrity. And I was very embarrassed, and that yelp was all I was capable of, and I quickly scurried off. And I remember telling my friend Tulasi, who was a chemistry student, about what had happened and how embarrassed I was, and she was like, "Oh, you know, he's teaching my class this term. Do you want to go to his office hours?" And I was like, "Okay, Tulasi, sure, let's go," fully expecting his office to have like security guards at the front because I was like, "Oh, he won a Nobel Prize, he's got security." So I walked with Tulasi to his office. There were no security guards, just a person in their office. He knew Tulasi by name and welcomed us both into his office and just asked us about how the semester was going. For the next few months, I'd actually always run into him at the gym, and he'd always wave when he saw me walk by. And it was just nice. So today, as a faculty member, I actually have 2 favorite hallways. One of these hallways is on the 7th floor of Simmons Hall, where I live. There, I tell students my official title is neighbor. So feel free to come by for a homemade ice cream or to meet our indoor collection of citrus plants. My other favorite hallway is the Infinite Corridor. I actually love to walk down the Infinite during the break between classes because it hums with an energy that I just can't find anywhere else. In fact, on some of my most difficult days when I feel stuck, I've been known to just go walk and pace the Infinite just to take in some of the boundless energy that emits from the people there. You get to hear about all the solutions that people are pursuing, whether that be on their problem sets, in their residences, or on their research. So the question you might be asking yourself is, what do these anecdotes reveal about the magic of MIT? I'd like to submit to you the following thesis. Problem solving, which is what I believe has brought you all to MIT and something that MIT leads the world in doing, is a deeply human endeavor. What connects us, faculty, students, and staff alike, is a human desire to solve problems both big and small for each other and the world around us. The magic of MIT is all of you, and it is deeply connected to your humanity. And so I hope that throughout your MIT journey, you offer yourself the grace that being human provides as you laugh, fail, succeed, share, learn, and importantly, get plenty of sleep, please. We hope that you feel empowered to build connections with each other and with the faculty, because we are rooting for all of you. Let me be clear in that. We are rooting for every single one of you in this room. We hope you cheer on each other. We hope your families cheer you on, and we are certainly cheering for you for the next 4 years. It's my great wish that you all experience your own moments of serendipity, as you never know where these hallways of MIT will take you. So welcome to MIT and welcome home. Thank you.
Whoa, what a great group of presentations. I want to thank our speakers, Professor Roy, Professor Kisling, and Professor Bryson. These are truly inspiring remarks. And Laura, I'm sorry that I reminded you of your anxiety. It comes with the territory. I want to add a big thank you also to the Office of the First Year, to our orientation leaders, and to everyone in the Division of Student Life for offering a warm welcome to our newest students. Now, a few final bits of housekeeping and a little bit of music. Parents and families are invited to the Johnson Athletics Center ice rink, where our Dean for Student Life is hosting an information fair and family lunch. So that's for our parents and families. On your way, you're welcome to stop by and say hello to me and my wife, Chris. Where is my wife, Chris? She's here. She raised her hand. Nobody can see her, but she's right here. As well as Chancellor Nobles, who will be joining us to greet you. And the members of the class of 2026 are invited to brunch in your respective residence halls with your heads of house and your graduate resident advisors at 12:30. And for our finale, I invite you all to stand and join in singing the school song led by the Corollaries of MIT.
Street, dressed in my dinky uniform, so dapper and so neat. I'm crazy after calculus, I never had enough. 'Twas hard to be dragged away so young, 'twas horribly, awfully tough. Hurrah for technology, geology, oh, glorious old technology, geology, oh. Back in the days I was free from candyology varsity shop, with nothing to do but analyze air in an anemometrical top. The differentiation of the trigonometric powers, the constant pi that made me sigh in those happy days of ours. Hurrah for technology, geology, oh, glorious old technology, geology, oh. Take me back on a special train to the Boys Institute. I dig for the inspiration of the technological take me back, and show me classical, take me back, oh, take me back, and all that. But how we love to take me back, oh, take me back to tech. La 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 la. O-M-A-S-S-A-C-H-U-S-C-T-T-S I-N-S-T-I-T-U-T-E-O-F-T-E and then it's C-H-N-O-L-O-G and Y comes after G. It's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Hey!
Thank you all for coming. You are at MIT. Thank you.